Hello, everyone. Konnichiwa. I'm Lori Sugihara, and I am so glad that you're here with us wherever you are in the world, whether you're watching it live or recorded. Today, I'm going to speak about something that's very near and dear to my heart. It's about a gentleman named Chiune Sugihara, and I learned about him in Seattle, Washington, and about his life and how he risked his life to save the lives of Jewish people by writing transit visas so they could escape annihilation. So thank you for being here. I want to ask that you put the questions to the end. And if you see this recording, you're always welcome to message me. So we'll start off with Sugihara. Chiune Sugihara was born on January 1st, 1900. So we'll have the next slide. And in case you don't know me, I'm a farmer's daughter. Can you believe it? Me being a farmer's daughter, working, getting dirty every day and working out in the sun. But I did that and it built my character, but I hated it. And I knew that wasn't my life. But it taught me a lot of good moral ethics about working hard and finishing the tasks that you have at hand. So I don't regret it, but I I did at the time did not did not like my life, but that's what it was. And it was who God made me, and I couldn't change. I couldn't have blonde hair and blue eyes. Let's see. So we're just getting started. So thank you for attending. And I am Lori Sugihara, and I am a farmer's daughter from Woodland, Washington. I grew up in middle class America and, well, actually, rural America, farming community, worked hard all my life, went through school, but then I was teased and bullied. And who likes that? Because I was Japanese. And this was after the war. I'm a baby boomer, so you can understand why that happened. And at that time, I just didn't like it. I didn't understand why people would um, classmates actually would treat me that way. But I learned that hurt people or people that are just misinformed, because Japanese people prove themselves to be very honorable and productive citizens, and my parents were one of those. So I grew up, and then when I graduated from high school, I went to college and I wanted to learn Japanese because I had a 2-year language requirement to fulfill. So I took Japanese, and my parents were talking about in their own secret code, and I wanted to learn what is that secret code that they were talking about. Of course, I learned a few words like okane, which means money, and baka means it's not all up there, or takai means expensive. But I learned a little bit, but more when I went to college, I learned even more. And then I worked to work at the Tacoma Art Museum. And my mentor told me that I was more Japanese than I realized. And she says, I think you should go to Japan, Lori. And so that planted a little seed in my life. And my husband and I did go finally in 1982. So we'll have the next slide. And while we were there in Kyoto, we went to the Jidai Matsuri, and that's the annual procession in Japan. Happens only once a year on October 22nd, I believe. And there's over 2,000 people dressed in period attire. And as you notice on the screen is Tomoe goes in, and I didn't even realize there were female samurai. And I just thought, oh, this is great. And I didn't think much of it, but the procession was about 2 hours long, you can imagine, and all these samurai and horse, and it was magnificent. And then later, we met my father's cousins on, so that would be the paternal side. So next slide. And they gave us a copy of our family crest and our family tree. And if you look at it, it's there's 3 stylized swords and a heart. And I thought, oh, that's very nice. Thank you. Domo arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much. But I didn't realize the significance of it until later. And so fast forward, family, and then came the empty nest. And I was rear-ended twice, not once, but twice within a 2-year period, 18 months to be exact. And I was so messed up. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't see very well. In fact, I was reading at a seventh grade level, and I thought, oh, this is horrible. I didn't want to stay in this position. And so I worked my way back. And I fought my way back, because reading at a seventh grade level and trying to go back up to at least high school, that took about 3 years. And then I have years and years of speech pathology, physical therapist, physiatrist, many, many appointments to regain wellness, because I did not want to be a helpless person. And that's what I would have been. I could barely drive, and I could see, but I couldn't make out. Sometimes I get lost, and I was just a mess. So anyway, I decided to look into my Japanese background. And in it, learned that there were samurai, and I learned more about the samurai. And then I saw it, our family crest, and I go, next slide, please. Look, I told my husband, look, this is our family crest. Look at this is one of the one of the crests of feudal Japan for the samurai. And many families or clans would have a crest. It wouldn't be like one family has an individual crest, but this is ours. 3 stylized swords and 3 leaves that look like hearts, actually. And so it is a crest of the samurai. And so I worked tirelessly. I kept researching and learning about the samurai, and they lived by a code of ethics. And that code of ethics, they were not willing to compromise. They were kind of like our founding fathers, and wanted to do everything they could to uphold the code. And if they didn't, that would be the ultimate sacrifice. They would do the seppuku, which is the suicide. So I believe we can have the next slide. So I worked tirelessly, and every day, whether or not I felt like it, I researched and found out that there was a lot in me that was untapped. That when you're in a situation, you will find that you will stretch yourself until you feel like you can't go any further. So when that book arrived on my doorstep, or the books, many books, I thought, yes, that samurai spirit is in me, that DNA. So I love being Japanese, and I love being part of the samurai heritage, because the samurai, as you know, are no longer, but that spirit lives on in Japan. It's a safe, clean country. You don't see litter on the floor. The people are kind. You never see pushing and shoving unless you're at traffic, the work hours to get people in and out of the subway or the train. So Japan is a wonderful place, and if you haven't been there, I highly recommend that you put that on your bucket list. So that was published in 2020. So I talked about the samurai, and that's fine. The samurai, what do you think of? What comes to mind? Is it that fierce warrior, or is it Tom Cruise? And that was a beautiful movie, and it really did help bring the samurai to the forefront. But it was a little bit based on facts, but it was a movie made in Hollywood. So we can have the next slide. So among the pantheon of warriors, surely the samurai is the greatest. Tetsuro Shigematsu is a samurai descendant. Next. And they live by the code of Bushido. Bushido. Bushi is warrior and do is a way, so it's a way of the warrior. And then also samurai is from the verb samaru, which means to serve. And so the basis of samurai is to serve, and they serve loyally to their masters, their lord, their community, their family. And they were awesome warriors, because they used not only good in the martial arts, in the fighting skills, but they were also the poets. They did tea ceremony, they wrote haiku, painted, drew. So they were very well-rounded individuals. So next. And that code of Bushido, and I'll be glad, anyone who signs up, I will send that to you, that code of Bushido. And it's a good reminder of how we are to live our lives. Courage, integrity, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. Next slide, please. And during this presentation, I'd like you to think about how Bushido could help your life, and how it affected Chiune Sugihara's life for him to leave the legacy. Those 7 principles. courage, integrity, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. 7 principles and 7 words. Do the right thing all the time is what it boils down to. Do the right thing. And one of Sugihara's quote is, do the right thing and leave it alone. So next slide. This is Sugihara, born on January 1st, 1900, and he's the one in the middle, right here, before he went to the army. And what happened was he was a very good student, and his father had aspirations for him, but it didn't actually match his. His father wanted him to be a doctor, but he hated the sight of blood. So how can one be a doctor if you don't like blood? So he went down to Korea to take the medical exam. And when he went down, he got the exam, the papers, and all he did was write his name. This meant that I was here, but I didn't take the exam. And so his father was furious because he had the potential to become a doctor, but he knew that that was not his life. He was more like his mother and like the literary arts. He loved languages. He wanted to travel the world. And so his father said at that time, my obligation to you is over. So he funded his own college and went to Waseda University. And during that time, he also did some other training and learned languages. And that was one of his gifts, is to learn languages. So the next slide, please. So this is him, Chiune Sugihara, or actually they would say Sugihara Chiune, the Japanese vice consul to Lithuania, born on in the first day of in the 1900s, January 1st, 1900. And he passed away in 1986. So actually at that time, that was a good long life. And while he and his wife, Yukiko, enjoyed the life of diplomats. She would be beautiful in her kimono and he was in his tuxedo. And they enjoyed several years of this and had their children with them. And the sister came with them to all the different posts to help watch the children. But this was a park in Lithuania. It says, no Jews allowed. He was a man of compassion. And so what they wanted to do was, what they were doing was Hitler was coming through and the Jews were being rounded up and annihilated. And so they came to Lithuania and they heard that Sugihara was a compassionate man and they wanted to tell of their plight. So they would come in droves, hundreds of people begging for transit visas. So finally he said, I want a committee of 5 men and we will talk. And so they talked and Sugihara went, well, actually he telegraphed. You don't use the email or something like that. He telegrammed his superiors, the government of Japan, 3 times. And each time he said, no, you cannot write those visas for the Jewish refugees. So he went to his family and his family said, well, Papa, you always taught us to do what was right. What would we do? What would we do if we were in their shoes? What would we want? And they said they would want visas. So he went ahead with redoubled courage. He did not involve his family because they would have been implicated and the consequences would have been quite high. It could have been prison, it could have been death. And he did lose his job and had a hard time finding work after he returned. So he went ahead in July. And what he did is wrote for 5 weeks these visas. And this is a visa from the Sugihara Memorial Museum that my husband took. And it's a museum in Yaotsu, Japan, even though he was born in Mino City. It's on a hill and there are statues, but we were so taken when we went to the museum. It's quite really heartrending. It's just like, it's not quite, but it's almost like going to the Holocaust Museum. And you see the lives of these visas that were donated there. Those are lives. And each one of the lives were people and they would have families. So he wrote over 2,000 visas in a very short period of time, saving over 6 100,000 lives, including one yeshiva in its entirety. So in World War II, I believe it was the only yeshiva, the Jewish school of studies, religious studies, that was saved. But he did it because he had a heart for people. He says there's nothing wrong with saving lives. And so that's what motivated him was, and he did, through kindness, he left a legacy. And here you will see the righteous among the nations actual certificate or award that he was given by Yad Vashem Museum in Jerusalem. And it was for Chiune Sugihara because they did not want to they didn't want to endanger him because he was not known very well in Japan at that time, and the government people would come, like the refugees wanted to know, where is this Mr. Sugihara? And they would say, oh, we don't know about him, wherein in fact they did know him. So finally one day in the 60s, there was a gentleman who looked him up and gave him a call, and that was one of the most rewarding days of his life, because then he knew that the visas that he wrote were not done in vain, and that people's lives were saved. And people's lives today, people still continue to honor this man, Chiune Sugihara, because he left a legacy. And so sometimes you might wonder, well, it's just me. I mean, what can I do? But you can see the kindness of one man and what he did and how it affected generations to come, and how Tomoe Gozen was, that I've spoken about earlier, 1157 to 1247. She was another one, and her legacy continues to live on. So I'd like you to think about your legacy. What is your legacy? What do you want to be known by? And honor, courage. It took courage for him to do that, because courage is not to go blindly, and he knew there were consequences, but he was willing to take the risk. And he said, I went down with redoubled courage to save the lives of the Jewish people. And Mayo honor, he honored those people. He honored the lives of people he had never met or probably would never meet in his lifetime. So those Bushidos is something, Bushido, you can use any of those. And when I was writing the book, he actually fit any of them. Benevolence, kindness, all of that. He just embodied the Bushido. So please think about your legacy. What do you want to be remembered by? And it's going to take the resolve of a warrior for any of us to do what we are called to do, because you can't quit. If you're called to do that, you do not quit. You just continue to plug on and go on day after day, because you know that's your mission in life. And I'm going to be sharing with you about a masterclass that I'm having. I'll be announcing it very shortly, but it's about Ikigai, the Bushido, and Ganbaru, because all of those combined makes an awesome warrior. That's my opinion, is a warrior who can a formidable warrior, someone that doesn't give up, that doesn't always think about himself, or more, he thinks about other people and his mission. And his mission was to save lives. Oh, pardon me. So thank you I think I have a couple more slides. Yes, that's gambate kudasai. Gambaru is the verb, and gambate kudasai means, that's the imperative. It's like, you don't just say, go over here, you go, please go here. And so I'm saying, please don't give up. Please continue to go on. Please continue in your life, seeking the best that you can be. And I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you because I've been through it. That was like 7 years of rehabilitation that I endured, because I didn't want to be stuck in that position. I was helpless. I would have been probably on disability, and I knew that wasn't what I wanted. I knew I wanted to do more, because I didn't feel that my life was over yet. I had a lot to learn, a lot to give, and a lot to share with the world. And the experience, as hard and as painful as it was, and it was, it molded me into a person that doesn't give up. And to share a little incident that just happened a month ago, we were rear-ended twice, not once, but twice. The gentleman actually hit and then rear-ended. He went in front of us, tried to go in front of us, hit on our left fender, the driver's left fender, and then he pulls back and he hits us again. And I woke up screaming. But I've been doing chiropractic work and massage and seeing my speech pathologist, and she said, fortunately, your brain is okay. It's about the same place as it was a year and a half ago. So that is good news. Now, just getting over the pain and some of the little bit of PTSD, but I am getting better. Every day I'm getting better. So I think there's one more slide. If you want to, the questions we'll leave for later at the end. So if you have questions, I will address it after because for privacy's sake, I don't want to compromise that. We're just send out the video without that. So if you have questions, this is how do you get a hold of me. Lori at loriwhaley.com, and my website is loriwhaley.com. So sharpen your sword, and let the journey begin. I think there's one more. If you'd like to have a virtual chat with me, I call it virtual tea because tea is what Japanese make. And I just learned about matcha tea, which was exciting. They only take the first 5 leaves from the plant and the rest goes to something else. So that's why matcha is so expensive and it's so good. So please contact me, schedule a time to have a chat, get to know you. And if there's any way that we can partner together, if I can help you, I will do it. So thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being a wonderful audience, and you'll be seeing me every week. So that's it. Mata ne.